1400 KSPT in Sandpoint and 1450 KBFI in Bonners Ferry. This is Living Your Dream, a monthly talk show highlighting those who are living their dream in the hopes of encouraging others to do the same. I'm your host for the show. I'm Lissa Markwardt. I'm a certified career and life coach. My passion, guiding others to find and live theirs, sooner versus later. So many of my clients come to me because they hate their job. They might be very good at what they do, but they're at a place where they're unfulfilled, bored, or simply feeling the pressure to maintain their level of income and don't believe that there is a way that they can make the same amount of money or perhaps even more doing something other than what they are currently doing. I believe that when any of those symptoms are present, feeling bored, stuck, or unfulfilled, the message is to do something different. And that doesn't necessarily mean leaving your job. What it means is incorporating more of what you love to do or following something that you have been wanting to do. And sometimes that involves asking for opportunities to do so and taking some risks. My guest today has done just that. My guest is John Markwardt, and if that name sounds familiar, it is. He's my nephew. He is an elite sales professional with a proven and impressive track record in sales and management. And John recently took a break from his lucrative sales career to travel to a remote island in the Mediterranean and write a book with the intention of guiding others to become elite sales professionals as well, regardless of their product or service. John has since completed the book entitled The Grass is Browner on the Other Side. It launches September 6th. When we come back, John will join us and he will share with us his experiences as a traveling salesman and an author and how he managed to take the steps that are allowing him to follow his dream. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to 1400 KSPT in Sandpoint and 1450 KBFI in Bonners Ferry. This is the monthly talk show, Living Your Dream. I'm Lissa Markwardt, your host for the show. I'm a certified career and life coach. My guest today is John Markwardt. He is a traveling salesman and the author of the soon-to-be-released book, The Grass is Browner on the Other Side. John has recently taken some huge strides in realizing his dream of becoming a best-selling author as well as a sought-after motivational speaker. So excited to have you on the show today, John. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. So just to kind of give us some background, can you tell us a little bit about your career history and how it led you to want to write this book?
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, my career history was not always going in the path where I felt like I was excited about what I was doing. I was your typical client where I was good at what I did, and I was working day to day and week to week and looking for that end result. I was very good in sales and very good at sales management, but I was constantly striving for the end result, and I wasn't enjoying the process. Mm-hmm. And I think the process for me started a long time ago where we started to have conversations about really getting to enjoy what I was doing and concentrating on some of those pieces in my job. So the drastic changes of writing a book and moving to an island and changing my entire life did not just happen overnight. It happened years ago with coaching from you and direction from you so that I could actually start to enjoy what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. And that's where the process began.
So say more about that. What were some of the things that were helpful along the way?
Yeah, I think what it was really narrowing in on what I enjoyed about sales and what I enjoyed about sales leadership. For me, what I really enjoyed was coaching other people and helping them get better within their own career and take their career to the next level. As I started to see them becoming more and more successful, I watched a lot of people have life-changing moments where they started to make a lot more money and really enjoy what they were doing from a sales aspect, and they were thankful for my helping and coaching along the way. And that's where I started to narrow in on what I really enjoyed about sales and what I really enjoyed about leadership. I enjoyed the coaching, I enjoyed the development, and what I then started to do was concentrate on that. And that's what led me down a path where I became very passionate about wanting to share that story and share my passion in a book. And I wanted to do it a different way. We talked briefly about it, but when I was coaching people, I would oftentimes recommend a book, and they'd never make it through chapter 3. In fact, they'd make it through 1 or 2 chapters, and they'd get pretty bored. So that was where the motivation came from. I wanted to write something that was different and entertaining and kept their attention span, and then also gave them the tools to be more successful in their position.
Awesome. And so prior to kind of that revelation of, focusing on what you enjoyed about your job, can you tell us a little bit more about like what was dragging you down? What was making you not love your work? What was making you feel stuck? What was going on before?
Yeah, I think what it was is it goes back to the process. I wasn't really enjoying the process. And whether it be when I was in sales, I only enjoyed that end result. So whether it be, the actual prospecting to get to the appointment, to eventually get to the paperwork and submitting the sale, I only enjoyed that end result of getting the sale. And that to me was not very fulfilling, to only enjoy the end result.
Right.
Because every job is about getting the job done. And if you're only going to enjoy getting the job done, there's not a whole lot of fulfillment in there.
Absolutely.
So starting to concentrate on what I actually enjoyed changed that process for me.
Yes. And, I think it's super interesting because I know with the clients that I work with that are in sales is so oftentimes they tell me that they feel like that they are not that much of a value to their company, but it's really all about the bottom line is what are the numbers they can bring in. And that really takes that sense of purpose and that kind of that fulfilling aspect of the job out of the picture. So, do you see that in the people that you coach as well? And how do they, work themselves through that?
Well, I think that's where the coaching gets to be fun for me, because I really do believe that sales is a fun career, and you get to develop lifelong relationships through networking. You get to develop lifelong relationships with your current clients. And as you build your book of business, if you're doing it the right way and you're having fun, I say the fastest way to be successful in sales is to just start having fun, because there's so many different aspects of sales where it's about the networking and it's about fulfillment. And the greatest sales representatives are never looked at as sales. They're looked at as business consultants. And they come across as a business consultant. They come across as a friend watching out for that other person's business.
Right.
And they become very trusted. And you bring those people into your inner network, and all of a sudden you start to build your business the same way you build your friends and your family. And your network just gets bigger and bigger. So it becomes a very exciting industry where a lot of times we graduate from college and we're not necessarily growing our network of friends. Sales is a unique position where you actually get to do that and you get to have fun doing it. But a lot of people miss out on that because they think of sales as very transactional, so they don't think about everything that they get to do.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. And I think that when the bottom line, that accountability factor is leading the way, then that just tends to take the whole relationship thing out of the window, and it doesn't even make it seem like that's a part of the deal, versus if you can move the relationships and, how you're expanding your network and to make that be the fun part of it, well, then I think the bottom line just kind of takes care of itself. Tell me where I'm wrong.
You're dead on. The reality is, if you concentrate on the right activities and you have fun with the right activities, everything else is going to take care of itself. So what is considered a very stressful profession of sales, with quotas, and every month, you're going to need to do the exact same thing you did the last month, all that stress goes away if you build it the right way. And that's what a lot of the concepts are in my book is, here's some very basic concepts that you can implement right away. If you don't know how to be successful in sales, here's some basic concepts that you can grab and get better immediately, and then start to incorporate your fun throughout the process and make it your own. And that's what I highly encourage everyone to do. My word track or my story isn't going to be your word track or someone else's story. It's all about making it your own. But it's about doing the job at an elite level and striving to get better at it and enjoy that process.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the title of the book, The Grass is Browner on the Other Side. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so The Grass is Browner on the Other Side is a title that I was very passionate about calling the book. And the reason why I wanted to call the book that is it's the most basic sales principle for becoming elite. So to be elite in sales, you're never going to find the number one sales representative in a company of a couple hundred or a couple thousand sales representatives that just started there. Normally it takes time and it takes tenure to establish yourself within a company, and it takes time to grow things the right way, whether it be growing your pipeline or growing your network internally or externally. There's a lot of steps that come into place. And what I've seen throughout my career, actually, I call it an epidemic. I think in the U.S., we have the millennial generation that is constantly looking as the grass is greener on the other side.
Right.
And I interview a lot of candidates, and over the course of my leadership career, I've interviewed hundreds of millennials. And every resume that I see, I'm always seeing, 6 months here, 9 months there, 3 months here. I'll even have candidates come in that'll put stuff on their resume that's only for 1 or 2 months. And for me, if you're going to take a position, going 1 or 2 or even 3 or 6 months, you're not going to get the real experience that you could have got.
Right.
So I'm passionate about people grasping that experience for as much as it can be and trying to have success in that experience. So my passion also goes farther. We've talked about how I've wrote the book and I traveled to write the book. At the same time, I believe throughout your career, every stop that you make, you should try and do the best possible job that you can do and not just go looking for the next job because it gets hard in the first 3 or 6 months.
Yes. So if you were to identify your ideal reader of your book, how would you describe that person?
Anyone who's interested in sales, if they're interested in getting into sales and they don't really know what they're signing up for and they want to read more, it's a fantastic read for them. Anyone new to their sales career, also a great read. And anyone that's tenured in their career that wants to freshen up on some of those basic concepts that they haven't read about or been motivated to do in a long time. All of those are perfect for my target market. And then it even goes broader because I write the book in a unique way where anyone that's interested in learning more about sales, this is a great book to read. I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that don't realize that when they signed up for running their own business, that they actually signed up for a sales position. So
True.
I've met with a lot of business owners that are very excited to buy my book and read a little bit more about sales because it's not written in the normal textbook style that all the other sales books are written as.
Yeah, exactly. I have to say that, for me to read a book on sales, it's going to have to be fairly interesting and entertaining. And I definitely enjoyed the way you wrote it, the travel experiences that you wove into it and how you made them relevant to, the concept that you were introducing and reinforcing. So I can definitely testify that it's definitely entertaining and it drives home the points that you're trying to make, which is a super fun way to do it. So tell us a little bit, like when you were developing your whole idea on the travel, and where did the travel idea come from?
Well, it was kind of combining some of my passions. I love traveling. I love seeing new places. And I wanted to take that piece that I really enjoy and combine it into the book to make the book more entertaining. Mm-hmm. So the book that I wrote is actually written as a travel story of my adventures on the island of Cyprus. And I tell my stories to portray sales concepts. And what happens is what I call accidental learning. So you might be reading chapter 3 and it's a story of me on a beach. And then there's some woman crying on the beach. And you're thinking, what does this have to do with sales?
Right.
And why is he telling us this goofy story? And that's where the accidental learning comes into play. So I'll tell the story, I'll incorporate the sales concept afterwards, and then I'll tell another story of how that directly relates to professional sales. And that combination, what it does is it creates a much more entertaining read than what's out there today. So as a result of a number of people already reading the book before we have the launch date, I've received a lot of great feedback and a lot of great endorsements that are on the website. And, it's been very flattering that this goal and concept that I had has now come to fruition and people are enjoying it with the style that I was shooting for.
Absolutely. And so were the stories of the travels, did you know that before you set out that you were going to be writing the book in that manner, or did it just synchronistically present itself that way?
No, that was actually the goal. And, if the listeners are interested in the best way to write a book, I got some coaching early on with a couple of friends that had written several books and were authors that I was getting some coaching and mentoring from. And they told me the fastest way to write a book is do an outline. Figure out the chapters that you want to write. Figure out the basic concepts. Any additional detail that you can give yourself to outline those chapters, outline it as detailed as you can before you even start writing that first page. And what happened is over the course of really 2 years, I started to email myself. And I would email myself with the subject line book, and I would start to detail some of these chapters. And I would save them in a folder. And gradually, I had the entire outline before I went to Cyprus. The concept was I would go and act out all these elite sales principles from all the chapters. And I didn't know how I would do it, but I just figured if I was there long enough, eventually I'd have enough stories that they would all fit into all the chapters. And one by one, the networking chapter happened on a bus, and various other chapters happened from a beach or from diving off of a cliff or from bungee jumping. And they were all very unusual stories that were just an absolute blast for me to act out. And my life changed from wanting to get to the end goal to enjoying the process. And it was really the first time in my life that I wasn't worried about finishing the book. In fact, there were many days where I was hoping I'd never finish the book, and I'd just keep writing and exploring the island forever. And that was a first for me, Lisa. It was no longer about the end goal. It was about enjoying and loving what I was doing.
Yes. I couldn't agree with you more. And again, it's the same principle. And so if you're in sales and your focus is on the end results, then yeah, you're not going to get as much fun and much pleasure out of it. And the same thing with your trip. It's like, in writing your book, if it was all about, I have to get this book done, I have to get this many chapters written, it has to look like this. I mean, that would have put a big damper on your trip, as well as the energy in the book would have not been as fun and playful as it is.
I agree completely. Almost taking the reverse stance of, I'm just going to write however much I want to write, and then the rest of the time I'll explore and look for new stories. It was a very interesting time in my life that shifted my mentality. That was the final shift. I went through a process along the way through your coaching, Lisa, where I started to understand that I get to do whatever I'm doing, and that's how I started to look at my day-to-day. Whether it was working at any of my previous companies in sales or sales leadership, I started to look at what I was doing on each day and enjoy what I got to do. But it wasn't until I got to Cyprus where every day I enjoyed what I got to do. There wasn't a minute in the day that I wasn't enjoying the process, and that's when I knew that I'd found the direction that I wanted to go with my life and my career. And that's why this isn't just the first book for me. I've started to work on the second and the third book, and I know that my career is going in this path because you hit a point where you just believe this is where you have to go at all costs.
Yes, exactly. Well, the one thing that I especially loved when you were on your writing journey in Cyprus was your office. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I called it my work office, and it was a place that I drove my scooter to, and it really only took me about 2 minutes to drive my scooter there, and it was right on the Mediterranean Sea with my two office managers. Two of my best friends on the island were Michaelis and Pascal, and these two guys I got to know really well because I went there every single day to order a coffee and to type until my computer died. So I would not bring my power cord. I would just type until the computer died, and that was my day-to-day. And my office managers were my biggest cheerleaders. There was one office manager that had his famous saying of every single time I bumped into him, he would just look at me and he would say, "You are legend." And it pumped me up every time I saw him. He was the office cheerleader for me and the manager that encouraged me to write my book, encouraged me to travel, and he gave me all these different ideas around the island of where I could travel and where I could see something new. But every time he said those words, "You are legend," he just made me feel really good about where I was and what I was doing. And it's funny how those different cheerleaders in your life can make you motivated to do more.
Absolutely. And so why do you suppose from his perspective you were a legend?
It really had to deal with me living out my dream. He was in Cyprus, working as a waiter, and not necessarily knowing where he wanted to go in his career or what he really wanted to do. We got to know each other really well. He was one of my best friends on Cyprus, and this is McAllis, who would say, "You are legend." And the biggest reason is he was so excited for me that this American from San Diego, California, was sitting down at his coffee shop every day and living out his dream, writing this book and adventuring around the island to create additional stories for the book. So it was a little bit of just, I want to say, pride. He was very proud of me and what I was doing, and that was the type of relationship that we had.
Well, that's awesome. Well, he must have felt a part of your process as he was your office manager, so I'm sure he felt a little bit of a connection with your success as well, which is great.
Definitely. Both of those guys were excited that I put their picture on the website, and they've been excited along the whole process. We've stayed in touch, and I've sent them pictures of what the book's going to look like for the cover, and then what the inside's going to look like. And every time I send them an email update, I get a very excited response, which has been fun.
That's great. Well, we need to go to break. So when we come back, we'll hear more about John's adventure and how he got to write this book of his dreams. So stay tuned. Welcome back. You're listening to 1400 KSPT in Sandpoint and 1450 KBFI in Bonners Ferry. This is the monthly talk show, Living Your Dream. I'm Lissa Markwardt, your host for the show, and I'm a certified career and life coach. My guest today is John Markwardt, who is just about to launch his new book, The Grass is Browner on the Other Side. And John is just telling us about his travel adventures to Cyprus in the Mediterranean and all the adventures he got to enjoy as he sat and wrote his book on a daily basis and basically just had himself a good time along the way. So, John, before you embarked upon your trip, you had to make some pretty big decisions about what you were currently doing career-wise and how this was all going to work out for you. How did that unfold?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because I think, many of the listeners are thinking, hey, great for him. He went to an island and wrote a book, but I can't do that. It's not the right time in my life, and I have other responsibilities. And that's one of the biggest things is you don't actually need to go move to another island and write a book. Not everybody wants to do that, for one thing, and not everyone has the luxury of being able to take that time off in your life. But obviously it starts at a certain point with trying to figure out how do I get to start enjoying what I'm doing. And as I concentrated on what I was getting to do and enjoying what I was doing, and that was the training and coaching aspect, it opened myself up to a lot more of that than I was doing before. So I started to concentrate on that in my career. And I was working for a company, Paychex, at the time, and I started to volunteer to go to our corporate office in Rochester, New York. And I was flying there, and I was coaching numerous rookies. I was Rookie of the Year for the whole company, and that was a race that about 1,000 sales representatives would participate in. And I won that title as Rookie of the Year my first year, and that allowed me to do a lot of speaking engagements for the company that a lot of people were interested in. And I'll never forget, Lisa, that I did a class for 2 days, had a blast, and had a lot of compliments. But, it's always a big class, so you never know if you've reached anybody or not. But a very pivotal moment for me where I knew that this would eventually be a point in my career happened when I was at a conference for all the top sales representatives. And I had a gentleman come up to me, and he said, "Hey, John Markwardt, how are you doing? Can I buy you a beer?" And the natural response when someone says, "Can I buy you a beer?" is obviously yes. So
Of course.
I said yes, and he walked me over to the bar saying that, I don't think you remember me, but I was one of the people that was in your class. And one of the things you said that really stuck out to me in the first 2 minutes of you talking was that if we followed your direction for everything that you would lay out for us over the course of the next 2 days, that we would be at this event. And even though it was a very short timeline to get here, I just decided that I was going to commit to everything that you said, John, and that I would get myself here. He said, "John, I followed everything you said. You're the only reason that I'll be here. You changed my life. I've never made more money in the past year than I've made before. You changed my family's life. and I couldn't be more excited to be buying you a beer and thanking you for everything you did for me and my family.
Wow.
I looked at the guy and I said, absolutely not. This beer is on me.
Yes.
I bought this guy a beer, and we continued to talk for about an hour, and it was an amazing experience for me to see that it really just mattered to me if I was able to touch one person.
Absolutely.
Was it a big commitment to fly across the country and spend 2 days there and hope that you can reach everybody in that class?
Yep.
Of course. But what I realized is I just needed to reach one person for me to feel that fulfillment.
Absolutely.
And that's where the process started. Now, to fully answer your question is, while I was working for this company, I left Paychex and I went to a company that was a startup in Silicon Valley, and I was the head of sales and the head of service. And I'd grown my position into having almost about 100 people underneath me, but I was literally working my life away. I was working 12, 14 hours a day, every day of the week, including the weekend. And I hit a point where I realized that this was not what I wanted to be doing. I was still living the philosophy of what you coached me on to say, I get to do this. And I really enjoyed that I got to do a lot of different things at that company that helped develop me into the person that I am today and the career that I have, and helped give me the direction to really write a quality book on how to become a lead in sales. But I also got to make a decision that that wasn't what I wanted to do anymore, and I decided that I was going to take that leap. Now, I had many friends and many family members outside of you, Lisa. You were very encouraging, but I had a lot of people that kind of questioned the decision because I was quitting a nice executive position, making a lot of money, to not work and to move to an island to become a first-time author with no experience writing a book before.
Right.
In fact, English was not my best subject, so I knew I would need to hire a really good editor.
Good thing to know going out of the chute. You got somebody can have your back for you.
Exactly.
But yes, I'm sure there were several conversations around, really, John, what are you doing? What are you thinking? What advice did you get that helped you or perhaps didn't help you?
Well, I think the best advice I got was really from you, Lisa, and it was all the coaching that you were providing me. And what it ultimately came down to is you never pushed me off that cliff. Everybody jumps alone, and I needed to come to this decision on my own. And it was really a process of probably about 10 years of getting myself there, but then that process of actually jumping off that cliff and saying, okay, I'm going to make this gigantic leap and move to this island and write this book. It didn't happen as a split-fire decision. It happened because I kept thinking about it, and I kept trying to decide on where I wanted to go. And I knew it was what I wanted to do with my career at all costs. And the reason why I knew it was what I wanted to do with my career at all costs was actually from my grandfather, who typically has the opposite advice compared to you. His advice is very conservative. It's not go to an island and write a book. So I'm not sure if he was trying to be encouraging or discouraging, but when I told him about this idea, he said, John, who is going to read your book? And I was very quiet, and I'm like, what does he mean, who's going to read my book? So that's how I responded. I said, Grandpa, what do you mean, who is going to read my book? And he said, well, nobody knows who John Markwardt is. Why are they going to read your book? And I kind of just started laughing, and I go, well, I guess I don't know. That's a good question. Who is going to read this book? I've never written a book before. I'm not a well-known, famous person. Why should they even bother reading the book? And that is what I then started to concentrate on, is if I was okay with that. Because I wanted to concentrate on that and decide, am I okay with this? Am I okay with going to Cyprus, writing a book, and possibly, only my family and friends read the book? And out of my family and friends that read the book, maybe I only touch one person, and one person gets something out of that book, and they're able to implement that in one way or form, and it helps change their life. And it went all the way back to the talk that I had with this young man who wanted to buy me the beer in Hawaii.
Yep.
And he was all that mattered. I spent 2 days trying to coach 50 people, and he was the only one that was there. But he was so happy and so thrilled to have expanded his career and become an elite sales rep in under a year, that was all the fulfillment I needed. So going into this adventure, I knew that if I only had one person read the book and get a lot of value out of it, that it would be as much fulfillment as I would ever need by doing this. And I'm fortunate enough that I haven't even launched the book, and that's already taken place with multiple people that got copies before I actually launched the book. So, when you concentrate on something and you're going to do it at all costs, right, the result's going to be awesome.
Yes.
You just need to concentrate on it, be determined to follow your belief that you can do it. And at the end of the day, if you just keep concentrating on it, that perseverance, that dedication is going to lead you to an amazing product. And that's exactly what happened. I haven't written a book before. I didn't know what I was doing initially, but through the help of an amazing publishing company and an amazing editor, and just going at it every single day and chipping away and learning an entirely new process for myself, that dedication resulted in a quality product that I'm very proud of.
Yes. And, it's interesting because I do think that, that gentleman that offered to buy you the beer, he was probably all the motivation you needed to move forward and take all the arduous steps that you took to write this book. And I also have a hunch that it's not so much about the bottom line, how many books you sell, or how many people are out there that actually, buy it. It's just really more a matter of the fact that you have the opportunity to change people's lives by sharing the wisdom and, the experiences that you have to enhance their lives.
Well, don't get me wrong, Lisa. I want to be a best-selling author. And
Of course.
This is my full-time career.
But of course.
You are dead on. If that never happened, thrilled to have taken the leap. You never regret anything that you really want to do, and it takes some time to get there, but you're not going to regret it, and you will produce an amazing result if you just stay the path and you have that perseverance and you water your own grass. And that goes back to the title of the book. As an author, the grass was browner on the other side. I didn't want to be anywhere else. I had several opportunities that were presented to me prior to leaving the country and going to write this book. And I turned down all of them because I believed the grass was browner on the other side. And while
Awesome.
I didn't know exactly how to be an author, I was determined to just water and fertilize that grass and have the greenest grass on the block of a block of authors. And when you have that determination and you keep going at that goal, it's going to pan out for you. Now, it might take a long time. My 1-year anniversary of coming back to the U.S. is September 6th. And September 6th is National Read a Book Day. And when my publishing company said they wanted to land on September 6th, I thought, wow, that could not be a more perfect day to launch the book. It's 1 year since I've been back, and while it's been a grind to get through all of this with the publishing company and launch the right way with a website and launch the right way with all of these different things that need to go into place, it's been an amazing year to finally see it come to fruition and hold that first copy of the book in my hand.
Yes, awesome. Okay, we need to go to break. We're going to come right back and hear a little bit more about what's in the book and how people can get it. Welcome back. You're listening to 1400 KSPT in Sandpoint and 1450 KBFI in Bonners Ferry. This is the monthly talk show, Living Your Dream. I'm Lissa Markwardt. I am a certified career and life coach. My guest today is John Markwardt. He is a traveling salesman and the author of the soon-to-be-released book, The Grass is Browner on the Other Side. John's just been sharing with us how he has gone from being a little bit stuck, a little unfulfilled, a little bored in his career and moved in the direction of wanting to help others to become elite sales professional. And he went upon a journey to travel to Cyprus in the Mediterranean and write a book all about that. It's fun and it's entertaining. And we are just wrapping up. And one question that comes to mind for me is, you've managed to take the trip, you've written the book, you've got it to the point where it's ready to launch on September 6th, which is super duper exciting. You still are currently working full time. How is that going? How have you been able to realize your dream of writing this book and move towards being a motivational speaker and still be able to have the income and the career that's allowing you to do that?
Yeah, a great question, Lisa. And I think this is good for all of the listeners to know that might be thinking about doing something and they don't know what that process is going to be. And the reason I've been able to have, the full-time career and launch this book is when you put something out there to the universe and you put it out there on a regular basis, you really have no idea how it's going to happen and how it's going to come into place. But the amount of people that have touched my life throughout this process to allow me to get to this point is just endless. And I've got a great acknowledgement section that is probably longer than the average book because I was so fortunate along the way to have so many people contribute to my journey. And the lifelong friends that I made in Cyprus that contributed, to the people back in the U.S. that led me to the right publishing company, to the people that helped me launch the book through the publishing company, the editor, to you, to my friends, to my family, to all the support that has been out there. When you put it out there, that's when it just starts to come together for you because you put it out there and you're starting to talk about it with so many people. You definitely don't know where it's going to come from, but all of a sudden things start to fall into place. Mm-hmm. That's really how I've been able to juggle both of them. And the fact of the matter is I'm at such a good spot where I look at what I'm doing now as an area sales manager for a company called Heartland. I manage the state of Arizona and Southern California as an area sales manager, and I'm coaching sales representatives and sales managers on exactly what I wrote about in my book. And it could not be more fulfilling to me to be having these coaching conversations and say, I actually wrote about this in my book and then coach them on that as well, too. So it's combined both of my interests. And while the goal is to do the booking, the speaking career full time at some point in my life, I'm fortunate enough to be juggling both and enjoying both of those two positions as the process has gone on.
Awesome. And so compare how you were feeling prior to realizing that you get to do this work, you get to write this book, you were at Paychecks, compared to how you're feeling now. And tell me where I'm wrong, but I have a hunch you are working way more hours and spending a lot more time investing yourself in what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, it's funny, that the age-old question of people asking you, what's your hobby? What do you do for fun? My response is writing and working on my book. And I truly mean that. So where other people might think that that's a job, when the weekend hits and I get to have some full-time dedication to working on the book, I'm having a blast. I just enjoy it. And I think that's the difference is I truly love what I do whenever I'm working on the book or working on the speaking engagements that I'm looking to line up post the launch, whether it be the website, whether it be the video that we put together that we'll be posting on social media on the launch day. All of these things have just been fun for me, and it's a completely different world for me than when I was working at Paychecks and just looking for that next sale or that next meeting agenda that I needed to pump out for the team.
Absolutely. And as I always say, that's how you know you're on the right path. So cheers to that. So we just have a few more minutes. I want to make sure that the listeners know how to get your book, about your website, any other information that you want to share.
Thank you so much. All the listeners can go to grassesbrowner.com. Grassesbrowner.com is my website, and we are taking pre-sales on Amazon.com. So the links will be there to take your sale right now, so you can buy today, and you'll get that book as soon as we hit the launch day. Or you can go directly to Amazon, and you can search on Amazon either my full name, John Markwardt, or you can search for The Grass is Browner on the other side.
Might be easier to spell The Grass is Browner on the other side than Markwardt.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much, John. It has been such a pleasure to have you on the show. And as I was saying at the beginning of the show, that if you're feeling stuck, bored, or hating the work you're doing, it doesn't mean you have to quit your job. It just means it's time to do something different. Embrace that. Brainstorm possibilities. Have fun with it. Sit down with people that you enjoy and talk about it. There are no limits. Just have fun. What are some of the other passions or interests that you would want to incorporate? Like John did. He threw traveling in with wanting to write a book, and he did both, and everything fell into place wonderfully for him. So, you can do it. The clients that I see feel like they're stuck and there's just no options, that they have to quit their job, but that's not true. You can weave things in that you enjoy. You can ask for opportunities for expanded responsibilities in the direction of the things that you are good at and you thoroughly enjoy. You can take some classes, get some additional training. Just have fun with it and see what comes up. So if I can be of any help in that process of discovering what it is that is your passion, be it in the work that you do, the relationships that you have, or how you live your life, you can contact me at lissa@nowisyourlife.com.